Hi, I'm Sean, and you're watching Shopworx. On this episode, we're going to go through and fix all the stuff I was in a rush to do last time there. So, needless to say, didn't get her done. I had some problems, broke a bolt in the crank there, and that was my Hail Mary, I give up kind of moment. I didn't have time to get bolts, and as it was just kind of piecing it together, you know, just get the doors on, get the windows in, let's get the seats in, forget the interior, you know, just enough to make it drivable, make it look the part on the outside kind of thing, just rig in some quick bumpers. I guess the best thing about the whole ordeal there about not getting it done on my timeline to make her for the Connex was I don't have all that much bad stuff to tear apart. I've got to rip the 2 fuel tanks back out. Not because I did anything wrong with fuel tanks, but I'm going to change the wiring around on the back end there. I'll show you here. So as it was, I was pulling wires in. This was made actually to go into a F Super Duty dump truck originally. So I had wires here for the back for switching, right at the back for a hydraulic tool circuit. A bunch of these other ones were your trailer wires and etc. etc. Some valve body wires. You know, I just have way too much here than I need. So I'm going to pull this back out. We're going to save it for that truck. And I'll make the wiring harness that I actually needed or wanted for here. I'll get to do it right from the get-go. It's easy. I don't have any fuel in these tanks yet, so I can just pop the lines, basically unclip the wires and pop the bolts and drop them. This rear one I need to drop anyway. I'll show you why. In my haste to get these springs and everything going, I didn't have time to get the parts ordered in at that late in the game there. I ended up having to grind my Super Duty shackles to make them fit, and there's still a fair bit of beef in there, but the Super Duty shackles don't quite mount up with the brackets there for the springs. So what I'm going to be doing is while I got the tank out there, probably the reason I am dropping the tank, and once I get this rear one out, I drop the front one to do the wiring harness. But I'm going to change these hangers out with the new ones I've got, and I've also got new ones of those to replace them with now as well, them shackles. So I'll feel a little bit better that way. You know, no more grinding at 3 in the morning, and then I don't have to worry about anything breaking out there. It'll be its full strength right from the get-go again. That was something I was going to do no matter what, just after the trip. Like I say, it's pretty easy to drop the rear fuel tank. I just have to do the fuel lines back there, the breather line, the 2-inch filler, and the wiring harness, and the line over the hard 3/16 fuel line for the heater, diesel heater in the back there. And once I get that done, I got to cut all them tie wraps and pull the wiring harness out after I drop that front tank. So, I guess moral of the story, or moron of the story, is do it right the first time. And I guess the whole thing was just trying to save some money and you know, not take 2 vehicles down and actually go down in something cool for once. Ended up took the crew cab, and John went down in the Escape there, so didn't burn a whole lot of extra fuel on his end, but is what it is. So the other thing I was getting a little anxious and hurried on was the wiring in here. As you can see, well, radio wiring, that's really minor. The problem I've been having with this stuff is the wiring has been chewed by mice. I've got a lot of rotten stuff. Some of the pins are broken off. You can see down here, that one's corroded and pulled out. It was all just stuff like this adding up. So And part of the challenge is I'm working with 3 different wiring harnesses in here. I ended up having to use the dash out of the 96 or 97, and the wiring harness is for the dash I need for the old IDI, so it's a pre-power stroke. It doesn't have all the controls and everything for the injector modules and all that. Basically I'm running transmission module instead. So I had to use the 93 wiring harness in here for that. And I've got the 97 door harness and back harness running through, so all the wires are, well, not all of them, but a bunch of the wires are different in there, different colors, and trying to piece together stuff that never really had. You know, the 97 had the rear mount stoplight, 93 doesn't, had a cargo light, Bronco doesn't have any lights. And that, I guess, brings me to my last wiring harness at the back there. It's the Bronco, 86 Bronco, so again, change of colors and all that other great stuff. So got to go through, and I've been figuring all that stuff out since I got back. Haven't really done anything. I was kind of burnt out for last, well, what's today, the 31st, end of the month here. So since I got back from the Connex, basically 10 days, I haven't really did much other than scribble on some paper and look at some colors of wires. So order a few parts, that's about it. So as you can tell, the back wiring harness is there. Got to make all that stuff work. Again, it's going to be a little fun adding the few extra dome lights. I'm going to end up adding a bunch of extra wires in for the rear doors, rear windows and stuff as well here. So as you can tell, I've been scrambling online trying to get harness colors and radio wiring colors, pinouts for the door locks. You know, all the great stuff you can find online there when you really need it. Doing my own scribbling and color matching, turbo breakdown, transmission. There's something else I'm toying with right now. I don't think I'm gonna go through and do the shift kit on this thing. I was gonna when we had it apart, but I really didn't have the time to do it, and I don't know, I'm kind of leery on that transmission. I think it's going to be okay, drive it around for a bit, but I'm gonna find another E4OD. I've actually got another one buried in a sea can, but be a all day's job just to get to it, let alone put everything back in. It's at the very far end. So I'm going to try to find another E4OD and a 4-wheel drive and build her up and do all the necessary mods right from scratch with it. Put the shift kit in that one and just swap the pan over at the end, kind of thing. So that'll be down the road, maybe later this year, maybe next year, maybe the year after, I don't know. But they're not too bad. I had a 4R100 apart for that 450. It's about the same thing. Ended up doing the same shift kit in it, and you had to go tear in from the pump end here all the way back in, change out a couple of gaskets in there for the higher pressure. So that's basically why I don't want to deal with it, because if I'm in that far, I may as well do the friction material. I may as well do the upgrades on the planetaries and all that other great stuff. So as you can tell here, we've got different colors of wires between the different harnesses. So what I've been doing is this other harness here, I'm leaving the factory ends on it. It's the 97. So I'm taking the ends from the 97 harness under the dash, and I'm using them for the power stroke. So I'll be splicing these up and changing this out, because for some reason they're just a slightly different size here and don't want to go. You can see the pins over there like a 1/16 of an inch further. So thank you, Ford. Ended up screwing up on some other stuff up under here as well with the brake light switch and the transmission mount here. I was in a hurry way late one night there, and ended up with the hydro boost. I moved the pin up on here. So you got to move the pin up on your pedal, and now this was hitting back over here, and I kind of, you know, using the parts off the 97 here still instead of the parts off the 93 with the auto tranny. So I've got the wrong brake switch in here, which is causing my problems hitting this piece here I cut off. Luckily for me, I've got another steering column there. I can peel the bracket off with an auto on it, and then I can get the rest of the stuff to mount up, because it clips in up inside there with that. So we'll get her. So it's all just these little things when you're rushing, you kind of screw up or get in a hurry, you know, oh crap, I'll fix that later, you know, and I'll get around to it again. So, you know, blessing in disguise, I got time to do it right. I don't have to worry about little crap after. I do all my wiring up proper. I guess on that note, I've been, well, before I left, I painted these up here, or stained them or dyed them, whatever you want to call it. They came black. I'm going to be changing a bunch of colors on things. I got different door panels. Some are gray, some are blue. We'll be getting after them as well. One point of notice here. Again, I was rushing trying to get this thing going. I ended up not doing as much filming as I wanted to. I had about 5 or 6 wires down here, and I thought it was a mouse that was chewing on them. But what it turned out to be is your switches here rubbing on the tin on the door after 300,000 or so. Had a few bare spots there, ended up having to fix up. So got them looked after here once I got back, and cleaned that up, taped them up, keep them from pulling and rattling. Well, what you may not have seen I did before as well, I drilled out a hole. I got to ream it still for the overhead console. And I guess that's my overhead console. Same one I put in my crew cab. If you guys watch that video there on my Power Stroke crew cab I redid. I'm going to be doing the same thing with this one. I liked it. These things are obsolete now. They're hard to come by. What I'm going to do, same thing I did on the other one, is cut in a whole bunch of switches, knock out these panels here, as well with the gauges for the overhead. And just push them all out, pop these out, cut that in to fit, and usually I put a speaker in here as well for the ham radio. So be doing that, and trying to remember how I mounted the other one. And I got my helper for the night. Hey, Misty. Should have called you Shop Rag. And then what I'm doing here is going to be using this one. It's not the one that came with either of the dashes, but it is pick and pull special. It's got the indicator lights for the diesel. What I usually do with these as well is I end up cutting out and dropping in 2 more Carling rocker switches there, and another 2 down here. They're just room in the dash, works out well. I'll show you on another truck here how that sort of pans out, and we'll go with that. So be cutting into those, starting to get this stuff all ready. And what I've done down here is that it's still drying. I just did that. It's pretty fresh there. Should have filmed it, but pocket's kind of useless. So I cut the pocket out. You get the rocker switch mounts in whatever shape that you want. Basically, you can get singles, doubles, ends, add more in the middle. I think they come in a 5-pack the way I've been buying them. And then I got 2, and then you got extra pieces. So when you expand from 5 to 7, like that overhead, it's no big issue. So I'm going to silicone that in there with black silicone and let it dry. Either silicone the back or put epoxy on it. I've done these before that way. Not sure. Usually I don't paint them. Kind of thinking about possibly shooting it blue with this. And then I go with them backlit LED Carling rocker switches. So here I'm out in my F Super Duty dump truck, and you can see I got my strobe lights and the PTO up there beside the dash light for the water and fuel filter. Down below I did my box up and down switch, and my latch I put a hydraulic ram on for undoing the dogs on the back there. And then down below here I've got all the other switches there that I don't use as often, just because it's kind of an awkward spot. Tool switch for the circuit on the back there. But that sort of gives you an idea layout on it. Of course, I'm storing my vinyl in here for now. I'm not using this truck right now, so it's is what it is that way. Well, and like I say here, the back is, I got that tool circuit and the switch to turn it on, reverse flow and all that other stuff. So it's this is where I got that other wiring harness built, is for a cookie cutter one of these. So I had my trailer plugs. I always do a 7-pin for any of the big trailers, 6-pin for any of the smaller bumper poles, and RV, well, if I got space to throw one in, I'll throw one in, but I change everything 7-pin or 7-pin or 7-blade to a 7-pin big truck style. I hate these RV plugs. They cause me nothing but grief. The things with these, you see how there's that slot in the middle? Every time you insert and pull them out, they're self-cleaning, but with that slot, if you ever run into a problem, you put a little flat blade in there, you give them a little bit of a tweak, and you got tension again. And pretty nice and easy. Same with the 6-pin. 6-pin's the same design. So back to this here. End up just popping these out. I save them for other equipment, you know, whatever, tractor, a lot of the tractors and trenchers and stuff. I use the Carling switches now on just about all our equipment. They're backlit. You can get them, ones I used in that little dump truck there 3-4 years ago, I cheaped out, I guess, and switched over once I did my side-by-side there with the actual etched stuff in there with the different colors, so you don't have the indicator light glowing in your face all the time, too bright. So you got those out, and end up having to cut that. The gauges, I've got a lot of gauges to go into this thing here. Tranny gauge, diff gauge, oil pressure, water temp, boost, EGT, voltmeter, kind of want to throw in an air temperature gauge too for outside air. Kind of nice to know when you're getting down to below freezing anyway. I don't know, might not apply to a whole lot of you guys, but it does for majority of where I've been traveling. Can't believe how crude these are here. Lack of care. My first one I bought there 4 or 5 years ago wasn't machined near as bad as this. Well, we'll clean all that up and cut these out. Like I say, I'll have to center this on there and marker with a Sharpie and go to town. Either well, what usually works pretty good is if you can get in there with a hacksaw blade, and it cuts not too bad that way. The other thing I like using is the tin snips. Work pretty good too. So anyway, I want to make sure I get that centered. Do that, mark the other ones out, cut them, clean this one up, see if I can find my speaker. I like cutting in there, and once I get everything all fabbed for that, then I'll clean her up in the last little bit of the burrs and crap and shoot it with paint, matched interior. Well, just as a demonstration how easy this stuff cuts with tin snips, it's pretty easy to modify this. Once I got the big hole open here, then we can cut it down to the corners. Take my aluminum file later and enlarge anything I need to. And I just take my aluminum file from the welding table there and enlarge it out to the lines, square it up a bit. I like going this way so you get a nice tight fit on it. Right there. There you go. If I snap it in, right like that, you can see all the clips up here are holding all the switches in there. You can't push it out. We'll unsnap that, finish cleaning that up, and I gotta go find that speaker. And then we can clean this up the rest of the way and shoot it. Well, like I say, I went through and tried to figure out the wiring harnesses there and did all kinds of paperwork on them. You know, 93 to the 97 wires, and crossed everything back and forth, and over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to start soldering that stuff up. I went down to wife's old truck and pulled out the piece there I need for transmission mount for the cable. And since I'm in here, see if I can show you the difference there. See how that brake switch, they come out sideways on it with the terminals? Well, this is the brake switch that was originally in there with the other setup, and they came out straight back, so that's why I had no space. Like you say, up top, by the time you put that in, you put the connector on it. So in the meantime, got everything tore apart here, put that new bracket in it. So you can see I've got that bracket put in there. I got my wires all tucked up and finished up behind there. Got other pieces done with some PVC strain reliefs there for additional wires. You can see the other side. Over here, I like bringing them through, keeps them all waterproof. Easy to feed through, fish them through. You got lots of room to add and change. Depends how much stuff I put in. Sometimes I might have to add some more. So I guess at this point I'm going to be leaving this video here. Just haven't had a whole lot of time. Work's been getting busy, having to get stuff ready to go for it and everything. So going to end this one here. Next one I'm going to get on the back end there doing the rear spring hangers, the trailer wiring box for the wiring harness. I'm going to leave that one. Counted it up, I don't have that many extra wires after all at the end, so I'm just going to go with it. And once that's done, got to get the bolt changed on that crank, get that extracted. Haven't even played with that because engine hoist was leaking oil out of the ram there, so it slowly bleed down. I wanted to get that fixed before you really monkey with this thing at all. So yeah, haven't done anything that way yet. So, and I'm waiting on some parts and pieces. Crossover pipe for the turbo there still. Yeah, all my parts are just piling up inside because I needed room. So I'm going to end this one here and get on to her again near future. I'm going to have some other videos probably in between here. I got some issues again with a bunch of stuff around here I got to get cleaned up and things like that. Starting some other equipment up. I'll try to get on this and have something again for a week from now as well though. So, alright, thanks for watching. If you don't mind liking, subscribing, and try to keep this going and get her out in YouTube's algorithm there. So thanks again, guys. See you next time.